I've yet to see a fact or a piece of evidence that suggests any foul play. But if there is, I feel confident that the sheriff's office, the district attorney's office, the members at the Department of Public Safety that deal with these crimes, if there had been one, they will find it and they will do what is necessary.
I got your wig, ho, ha ha. You're mad, Miss Wikiana, Miss Wig, Miss Wikiana, Miss Wig, Miss Wig. You're mad, Miss Wig, ha ha. Miss Wig, Miss Wig.
We know more tonight about the boat that brought Nolan Wells and his friends out to Horn Island off the coast of Mississippi this 4th of July, a trip that turned out to be the last that Wells would ever take alive. CBS News has obtained a recording of an emergency call made from the boat when it left the island around 4:30 p.m. without Wells, according to friends. The 23-foot boat had 7 people on board, according to the caller, who said the boat was taking on water and sinking.
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can you all please come?
GPS records show the boat did make it back to the mainland safely that evening. Wells' body, meanwhile, was found 2 days later.
I just know I've lost my best friend.
This morning, a friend of Nolan Wells, who was with the 18-year-old the day he was last seen alive, is sharing what he says happened during a July 4th boat trip to an isolated barrier island off the Mississippi Gulf Coast. Trayston Shepard declined to speak with us on camera because he says he and his friends are getting threats.
We did no wrong here, and we don't understand how we're getting so much hate behind it. We all cared and loved Nolan, and nobody wanted to see Nolan die.
There's so many people out in the public asking all of these questions, but the only question that we have is what happened to our son. That is the only question. We have consistently been degraded by the public. There's been questions about our parenting, our GoFundMe, this, that, and other. I've been called a racist. I am a healthcare provider, and I take my job very seriously. I love everyone. And it's been difficult for us, but we are leaning into our faith, leaning into one another, also leaning into all of you. There are not enough thank yous, not enough appreciation for what you guys have done for us. And we do. We love you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you. And so it is our hope that our local authorities will do what they need to do, because us having the preliminary autopsy results and hearing nothing from them, it's heartbreaking and it's concerning, which again is why we are here, why we have asked for this help. So again, thank you all so much for your support. We appreciate you, we really do.
Shepard addressed this viral video that investigators have been studying. Wells's parents worried it showed their son involved in a confrontation, but Shepard said that's him, not Wells.
That's the video I'm referring to. That's me yelling.
Shepard says he took a boat back from Horn Island in the late afternoon, but Wells stayed behind with a girl he had met.
They met that day, and it was kind of one of those things. It did come off that day that he really did like her, but that was the only time they'd ever hung out, was at Horn Island on July 4th.
Investigators believe Wells drowned and say there were no immediate signs of foul play.
When you observed his body being found, did you take any images or document that moment?
So I started taking images of the scene on the ground. There were several law enforcement boats and personnel. And later on, when I looked at the pictures and zoomed in, I noticed that you could actually see the body laying on the shoreline in those pictures. I was not trying to take a picture of the body at the time, but it ended up being captured in the wide angle.
And what exactly do you see in the photos?
I see a body that matches the description of Nolan Wells, laying face down at the shoreline right at the water's edge. And he was wearing swim trunks and, was, not moving, obviously. It just looked like he was sleeping on the beach.
Now knowing that the family is looking for any information about his body being discovered that day and washing up on shore, do you plan to hand over these photos and these images to the family or to their team?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's obviously images that I hope that his family never has to see. However, anything, and I want to repeat this, anything that Christine and Elmore want from the United Cajun Navy, we will not tell them no. We will give them whatever they want, anytime they want. All they have to do is ask.
So once they ask you, you will then hand over anything that you do have and any information that you have from that day.
That's correct.
Why didn't your team communicate to the family about what you saw that day?
Yeah, I just didn't think that it would be helpful to his mom as she was just finding out that her son was dead. That I saw the body. Human curiosity is gonna probably ask me to describe what I saw, and I just think that would have made it worse. Certainly wasn't trying to hide anything from her. And as a matter of fact, I was 400 feet in the air, and there was plenty of law enforcement on the scene, right there with his body. So anybody could have, could have described what they saw and what they saw up close. Now, later on, I found out that they were not given access to the body and all that kind of stuff. And maybe it could have been helpful if I just told them the little bit that I knew, but I didn't know that at the time.
Preliminary report, second autopsy, death of Nolan Xavier Wells. Cause of death, undetermined, pending investigation. And we'll explain that as we go through the report this morning. The manner of death, undetermined, pending investigation. Statement of examination. This forensic pathologist was retained to perform a second autopsy examination on the body of Nolan Xavier Wells. Name of decedent, Nolan Xavier Wells. Age 18 years old. Race, black. Gender, male. Date of death, unknown. Second autopsy date was performed on July 10th, 2026. Preliminary findings, and this is significant. Focal area of red discoloration in the soft tissue of the back of the head, the occipital region. He said the etiology is unknown at this time. He said the body was received after the initial autopsy. He said the body had marked decompensation. He talks in the preliminary discussion opinion. This forensic pathologist identified several limitations during the second autopsy that create barriers to establishing a definitive cause and manner of death for Nolan Xavier Wells. And that's important. He talks about the fact that we didn't get to see the body when it was first recovered, like the medical examiner working for Mississippi would have seen it. He talked about the second autopsy performed on Nolan Wells revealed marked decompensation or changes. Marked decompensation can obscure the presence and absence of bruising on the skin surface, especially during a second autopsy examination. What he's saying, because the body was so decomposed that you couldn't tell if there was bruises or abrasions on the body when he received it on the 10th of July. He says, however, dissection of the back of the head during the layered posterior neck dissection revealed a 12 by 8 inch focal area of red discoloration in the deep soft tissues overlaying the occipital bone. And he talked about how he found red discoloration when he cut open into the back of his head towards the occipital bone, and he saw the red discoloration, and we actually saw the pictures of it. It's significant. You can't help but notice, why is this dark red here in the back of his head? And so he was important to note that in his report. He said that etiology of this finding is unclear. There are no lacerations of the overlaying skin nor fractures of the underlying skull. These findings are inconclusive for perimortem injury due to both the extensive decomposition and the absence of associated injuries. This finding, however, is significant enough to be highlighted in this preliminary report for further investigation. It is important to reiterate that the finding could not have been observed in the first autopsy because the posterior head and neck dissection were not performed.
But there is growing frustration in the community, and his parents are skeptical, telling GMA Wells left his phone behind and they tracked it to one of his friends.
It was showing everywhere the phone had been, like it had. I was like, well, it's showing that he's back on land.
And you could tell right away that if you're hanging out in the water, it doesn't appear, in my opinion, that you would have your phone on you. Is that typical for people to have their phones, or?
No, I mean, people come out here, especially on the 4th and, Memorial Day, days like that, they come out here to celebrate, and people get on the water to be off their phones, first off. Second off, if I'm sitting waist deep in water, and all my friends are, everybody's leaving their phone on a boat, in a lake, if you're sitting on a pond, and no one's getting out of the water with their phone in their hand, unless, it's to take a quick picture. But most of the pictures taken on the 4th of July were on the boat.
Yeah.
I mean, and, salt water, if you drop your phone in salt water, most of the time you're not going to get it back. Yeah. I mean, especially the water's murky right now because there's been a lot of rain. You can't see, the visibility isn't good. The water isn't clear like it was last year around this time. And, no one has their phone though, usually. I mean, unless you're crazy, I'm not walking around with my phone in my hand. They've been walking around Horn Island,
How many people left the phone on the boat? Was it just his phone when y'all left, or did other people have phones on the boat?
Absolutely not. Like there was at least, I rode out here on a different boat, like I told you, and I grabbed my phone when I left the Palm Beach to get on the boat with Triton. To get on the boat with Wyatt because we were having, boat issues. And when I got on the boat, there was phones everywhere on the console. Everywhere. There was everybody's phone that was sitting around the boat was on the console. Like we had phones that we didn't even know whose they were, you know, and people just leave their phone, especially when people are drinking and, they're not in the right state of mind. A lot of people are like, oh, I'll just leave my phone and I'll get it later, and that's the way it is around here. You don't take your phone and walk around the island. There's plenty of phones on the boat and, spread out between the 3 boats that we had. And we had 20 plus people spread between our 3 boats. So of course, everybody's phone was on the boat. I never saw someone in the water that day sitting with their phone in their hand, scrolling on anything or even taking pictures in the water. Yeah, someone might hop out the boat. A lot of girls like to take pictures, in the water. And so do guys, but, girls want to take pictures in the water. Half a second, you might hop out the boat and be like, oh, I'm snapping this picture of myself or of someone else. But as soon as I get back in the boat, I'm putting my phone up and I'm getting back in the water and I'm hanging out with my friends.
Yeah, that's just common sense, man. And people say that you guys just left Nolan behind. I've seen reports of people saying that you just left him. I see reports of people saying that you asked him to get on the boat. You told him to get on the boat, he didn't. What's the truth in that?
Well, Wyatt was having boat issues and the bilge wouldn't pump. So the bilge is basically a pump that releases water from your boat when water comes in. So I opened the back hatch and there's water up to the batteries. And that is obviously not good. There's water almost coming over the transom, which is where your motors sit, and which is the, by the stern, like in the back part of the boat. So obviously we were in emergency. The boat, we're trying to save the boat. It's not like we didn't ask Nolan or we just left Nolan. Nolan decided to stay on the island with the girl that he was with. And the girl is a witness to that too.
Yeah.
The investigation goes on. Trayston Shepard wants the focus on his friend.
I want everybody just to relax and let everybody mourn the loss of Nolan, and let us remember him as in like the sweet guy. I think everybody needs to let the investigation continue and let the facts be shown.
What his parents think happened here? Do they believe this was just an unfortunate accident, tragedy, or that it's something more sinister?
I was in Ocean Springs when it happened, and I was still in disbelief when I got the news that Nolan was missing. So when I got all the details surrounding the case, that they told me he was out at Horn Island, and he came up missing or whatnot. I talked with his dad, and we just had conversation. That was kind of after the fact when they had found his body, because I was just giving the family their respect that they deserve, and when everything first took place. But I was sharing all the detail that the family was sharing, just putting the word out there, and just so everybody could be on notice and everybody be paying attention.
When you say you talked to the dad, did he kind of accept this as an accident and a tragedy, or was he more suspicious?
Well, no, he was more so just searching for answers right now, because it had just happened, and there was a lot of questions still unanswered.
Usually high school football stars have a pretty close relationship with their coaches. What can you tell us about just Nolan as a human being?
Nolan was a great young man, with a big personality. Everybody gravitated to Nolan because of his smile. He just wanted everybody to be happy, and he was a joy to coach, a joy to be around. To sum Nolan up, long story short, Nolan is a guy that I would let date my daughter.
I mean, there were rumblings that he may have gotten into an argument, that there might have been a confrontation or something like that. I mean, was he a guy who would stand up, where, his hackles would go up, or was he more of a get-along type guy?
He's more of a get-along type guy. Don't get me wrong. Now, if something happened, he'll defend himself, but I knew right then in that video that wasn't Nolan.
One of the theories is that that he was drinking and that there was a riptide that day and that maybe he got caught in a bad current out there. Knowing him as an athlete, and we've heard that he did know how to swim, would that surprise you if he ended up in that situation?
I mean, it would surprise me, that happened, but like I said, man, I'm just waiting till the family, give out, details of what they done gathered.
Was there racial tension at this school?
No, I don't think it was no racial intention at the school, from my experience, because you have, predominant white school, you have black kids there, and they all, played and grew up together and got along. Now, some stuff might have happened that I didn't see, so, I can't speak wholeheartedly on it, but from what I did see, it was a tight-knit community, you know what I mean?
Curious if the police have, I know they said they're still investigating. Did any investigators ever speak to you about what you saw that day?
No, sir.
Really? Okay. Cops have not talked to you yet.
No, sir.
That's odd.
I don't see why the cops would have. I don't see why the cops would have to talk to me. I mean, obviously, I had said my plea, because whenever I had talked to the people at Sunherd, it was whenever the body was discovered, and the autopsy people and all those people were there.
Well, I'll tell you why I'm surprised, because you knew Nolan well, and you knew that he was friends with these guys who were the last ones to be around him before his body was found. And I would think they would at least want to know, hey, just the things we're asking. Right. Did you ever hear of any of this stuff? It's odd to me. Just to gather information. Yeah, that the cops wouldn't have contacted you. Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm completely fine with that. Like I said, I have nothing to hide. That's my boy, and I want him to find justice. This whole case thing, whatever, this whole situation, and none of this adds up to me. So, it's really hard, for, people to just, keep on saying things when like none of it adds up, honestly.
Y'all pretty much having a good time. Just like anybody would imagine, 18-year-olds, probably 20-year-olds, college students, out on the island, women. You probably had alcohol, so y'all having a good time.
Yeah, of course.
And so where's Nolan in this? You guys out there, the friend groups are out there, 3 boats full of people that came out there that seem to be the closest friend group.
Right.
Where's Nolan in this in comparison to where you and others are at?
Well, I had a couple conversations with Nolan that day, and I talked to him and a couple of my other buddies. They are in a group. I was not focused on anyone solely, like looking and pointing anyone out, because there's so many people out there. I mean, I was talking to my friends that I haven't seen in a while from high school. I was talking from people I knew from college. I was talking to, everybody my age, and even people older than us were, over there. Like, I mean, it was just a regular thing. We're all used to this. We've been out to the islands before. My buddies don't just go out to the island on 4th of July, but they go out, every weekend. And like, I fish the islands. I don't just, fish around Horn Island. I fish around Ship Island too. So I'm very familiar with the islands. And I feel like it was just a big, I talked to Nolan, and, Nolan was drinking. Everybody was drinking, most of everybody. And I mean, Nolan seemed completely fine every time I talked to him. We had just regular conversations, and, Nolan was making me laugh. I had a couple conversations with Nolan and Javon, Nolan and my buddy James, I could tell you, I talked to Nolan a couple times, but it wasn't like I was strictly sitting there talking to Nolan the whole day. I mean, there was hundreds of people I knew out there.
This video obtained by TMZ shows the back of a black man on a boat during a large party on July 4th. The man is wearing blue swim trunks, similar to this photo of Nolan Wells that was also taken that day 10 miles off of Mississippi's coast. Those in the group Wells was with told authorities they last saw him around 3 p.m., 30 minutes after the video was taken. They say he chose to stay behind for a girl. His mother reported him missing later that night, and his body was discovered 2 days later.
There were so many people. I mean, boats, they were like on top of each other almost. It was intense.
Wells's college classmate, Lucas Aviz, was with family and friends on a different boat that day.
He may have been taken by the current. There's a certain part of the island where the current is pretty strong.
The boys were here. Tons of people you'll see on the video is getting onto the boat. And they took 3 boats out. It wasn't just one, it wasn't just Nolan, it was a multitude of people on several different boats. And some of the boys that they're accusing wasn't even on the boat that Nolan was on. The video is showing how many people were actually out there, actually getting on the boats. So therefore it debunks very clearly that it was only Nolan and 4 boys going out here to Horn Island.
This Nolan Wells case is taking a lot of different twists and turns. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. What do you think about it thus far?
Well, the phone has been erased and the parents have had to ping it. There's been no clear investigation. I think it reeks of a cover-up, and so we want to get to the bottom of it. So I thank Attorney Crump for being involved. I thank Kaepernick family. I thank people that want to get to the justice. And now the truth is coming out slowly, but the truth is coming out. There is a pattern of deception and denial and cover-up.
You think there's a cover-up? So who are you pointing the finger at?
Well, I first start with the legal authorities. They should do a thorough investigation. That the phone was separated from the child. Body was returned to an alternate location. That the messages have been erased. That the family had to independently retrieve the phone. These are all things that the sheriff should have done. And so I would like to see the law enforcement do its job and give the parents, the family, justice and closure.
I spoke with Jasmine Crockett about this a few days ago, and she feels like race is definitely playing a role in this investigation, or just in this case, I should say. What do you think?
Well, if you talk about 5 or 7 young white guys and 1 African-American child, they're out swimming, he ends up dead, and it seems to have been a bit of a scuffle or some altercation, I'm not quite sure. And then everyone leaves their one friend behind who just happens to be black. Well, this is also, as we speak today, the anniversary, the date of Emmett Till's birth.
This is a memorable day in history, especially if you have heard this story before. On August the 28th, 1955, a horrific event would happen which would cause uproar, distress and controversy. This is Emmett Till. Emmett was a black African-American teenager, and at the age of 14 years old, He was murdered in a racist attack that shocked the nation and provided a catalyst for the emerging civil rights movement. It is said the Till family were visiting relatives in Money, Mississippi, and Emmett encountered a local white woman, and it was said he was harassing her. Days later, that woman would find her relatives and abducted that young man, to be soon relentlessly beaten to death, and his body chucked into a nearby river. His mother intended that there should be an open casket funeral, to show the horrific violence there was on black people in the South, in hope that fear would run through their veins, and do the humane thing, to take a stand and fight for their rights in order to survive the oppression that they faced. Justice was not brought towards Emmett Till's death. Nevertheless, his brutal death would set a light for a nation of many oppressed, and not just of his skin color, into standing up to fighting for equal rights for many years to come.
Well, a grand jury in Mississippi today declined to indict the white woman whose accusations set off the lynching of Emmett Till nearly 70 years ago. Carolyn Bryant Dunham, now 88, initially claimed that Till made unwanted advances towards her at her family's grocery store. It led to the brutal torture and lynching of the 14-year-old. The prosecutor said the grand jury found insufficient evidence to charge Dunham.
And so I come from Chicago, and that was a Mississippi case, so history is repeating itself again.
History is repeating itself. So you're comparing the Nolan Wells case to the Emmett Till case?
Well, I'm just saying that there's a similarity, that there's a chord, there's a melody that comes from injustice, that the people that killed Emmett Till, they knew who did it, and they never were prosecuted. The young people that were around Mr. Wells, they know something, and they've never been thoroughly interrogated.
Well, it is an ongoing investigation. I mean, we still have some way to go. How do you think this is all going to shake out?
Well, I want the truth to come forward. I want the young people to say what they know. I see they're lawyered up, they're behind their family members that have judges.
As a former prosecutor, I'm shocked a sitting judge would do this. Judge Ashley Cole, the mom of one of the men who was with Nolan Wells before he was found dead, got on Facebook claiming she wanted to dispel rumors with facts, and then laid out this whole timeline of what she says are facts of what went down that day, even though she wasn't there. And this is still an active death investigation. A judge commenting could influence or intimidate witnesses before they've even spoken to investigators. That is exactly what you don't want in an active investigation. It's the reason judges are held to a different ethical standard. This is not how homicide cases go. Law enforcement investigates. Detectives interview witnesses. Prosecutors evaluate the evidence. Judges don't even get involved until legal issues are brought into the court. When you're a sitting judge, you're not just another parent on Facebook. This is exactly the type of situation the Mississippi Code of Judicial Conduct is designed to prevent. Judges are expected to uphold public confidence in the judiciary, remain impartial, and avoid not just acting improperly, but even appearing to act improperly. She literally said she was going to dispel rumors with facts, and then publicly filled in the very facts investigators are trying to figure out. None of this is okay.
They've had days and weeks to corroborate stories, and so we need an independent investigation.
The phones
have been erased, the pictures have been deleted.
Nolan Wells bombshell tonight. The dead teen's messages deleted after his body washes ashore. Caitlin, now allegations have reared their ugly head that his phone has been tampered with and items have been deleted. Explain.
They had his phone. And when his mother was looking for his phone when he was missing, there were two different ways to identify it, either a Snapchat location or a Life 360 location. They showed different locations, which is very possible because one updates automatically, the other only updates when you open the app. But when she finally tracked it down, she says there was nothing on it from that day.
The family had to independently retrieve the voice messages themselves. The state has not lifted a finger then or now with Emmett Till or with Wells to get to the murder of a young black child.
Who does an independent investigation? You're saying the sheriff's department isn't enough. So then who handles it?
Well, like we've seen before, this is where the federal judiciary is supposed to come in. But there's been
feds.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, it's a murder. This Mr. Wells had a right to be alive. He has a right to life, and that's been taken from him. So who did it? And if the local judiciary fails you, then this is where the federal government is supposed to supersede and intervene. So I would like to see a federal investigation.
There are a lot of disturbing circumstances surrounding this young man, the star athlete's death, and I am not letting it go. Joining us, Dr. Kendall Crowns. He is the chief medical examiner of Tarrant County, Fort Worth. Literally thousands and thousands and thousands of autopsies under his belt. He is the esteemed lecturer at the Burnett School of Medicine at TCU. I don't have to explain to you what it takes to become not just a medical examiner, but the chief medical examiner in a metropolitan area like Fort Worth. All that aside, COD, MOD, undetermined. But what jumped out at me, among so many things, Dr. Kendall Crowns, what does he mean about the red discoloration in the deep, soft tissues overlaying the occipital bones? What is that? Translate.
So what that is the occipital bone is the bone this is your skull. It's the bone in the back of your head, the directly back side of your head. So when he's describing these hemorrhages in the deep, soft tissues, it means deep in the musculature that holds your head in place, there is a red discoloration. What could this be? It could be settling of the blood from decomposition or from lividity, cooling of the blood. The body has been kind of put on its back and transported to Washington, D.C. So that could be that. It could also be
Trust
blunt
me,
force injuries.
I don't think I know more than you on this, Dr. Kendall Crowns, but you got me drinking out of the fire hydrant. You're giving me so much information. I had to break in right there because you said I'm going to quote, posterior red discoloration in deep soft tissue overlying occipital. Deep soft tissue. To a layperson like me, that means it's deep below the skin, and you just stated that could be from the settling of the blood. In other words, if he were lying on his back when he died, the blood would settle to the back of his head. But isn't it true to you, Brian Trasher, Vice President, United Cajun Navy? The Navy participated in the search, and I got to clear up that whole thing about fully clothed with you. That said, isn't it true? And I'm looking at the picture on my phone that I got from an undisclosed source. I'm looking at Nolan's body on the beach. We are not showing it. He's face down, isn't he?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, he was when we flew over.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you about the clothing.
Yeah.
What? Repeat.
When we observed him from the air, yeah, he was face down and he was wearing swim trunks and only swim trunks. I think that the term fully clothed just got taken out of context.
When you look at the body from high up, it appears at first like he had on a shirt with swim trunks, but he does not have on a shirt. He only has on swim trunks. That's a whole peripheral issue. But back to Dr. Kendall Crowns. So, Dr. Kendall Crowns, you may have an explanation for this. I've already thought of one, and I'm not a medical examiner, but I don't see how the deep red, I'm talking about, was there a blow to the back of the head? Did he fall off a boat? Did he hit his head on something else? If it turns out he drowned, how did he get in the water? Why was he in the water? Why did everybody leave him? Lots of questions tonight. But if he was found face down, the blood would not have settled to the back of his occipital.
Well, that's correct at the initial autopsy, but he was also transported to Washington, D.C. on his back, I assume, not on his face. And so after death, you can still have pooling of the blood in the dependent areas if the lividity is not fixed. Or even if it is fixed, you can have pooling. So it is difficult to say without seeing the actual reddened area in the deep soft tissue, whether this is just a decompositional artifact or if it's indeed blunt force trauma. Now, they're not describing any injuries to the skin surface, would still be there if he was, even if he's decomposed, you would still see injuries, abrasions, bruises, lacerations, things of that nature, even with decomposition. So it's difficult to give significance to this deep red area in the musculature of the deep soft tissues of the back of the head without further photographs or more information. To me, could it be blunt force trauma? Yes. Could it be a decompositional artifact? Yes. Could it be something from transport? Yes. Hard to say at this point.
Okay, hold on. Let me just take each one of those. And the rest of the panel, please, if you've got a question or a point, jump in. We need all of your brain power. Oh, that's an open invitation to Mobley to jump in. But 3 things you said, that there could still be pooling of the blood. And I don't want to be too DEFCON 4 into this and get lost in the weeds, but Nolan is dead. He's already been autopsied. Days have passed, and you're telling me that the blood could still sift down from the front of his face to the back of his neck in one specific area. Why wasn't it pulling all the way down his neck? Or why just that one area? I don't believe that when you have been deceased that long, you've already undergone autopsy, they've drained the blood from your body, that somehow in the few hours of transport, you're going to get pooling of the blood to one area in the back of your neck.
In an autopsy report, it has officially been released.
But the results are inconclusive. This is because the second medical examiner could not review all of Nolan's body. WDSU reporter Chantel Davis reviewed that autopsy report. She's in Jackson County working to get some answers. Chantel.
It's another roadblock for Nolan Wells' family as they desperately search for answers. And those answers lie right here in Jackson County. Sure. Can I ask you a quick question really quickly? Can I ask you a question? I'm Chantel with WDSU in New Orleans. Working to get answers for a family desperate for clarity.
The only question that we have is what happened to our son. That is the only question.
Nolan Wells' parents remain in the dark despite an independent preliminary autopsy report performed in Washington, D.C. by Dr. Roger Mitchell, read aloud by civil rights attorney Ben Crump during a press conference Wednesday morning.
Cause of death undetermined, pending investigation.
According to the preliminary report, Dr. Mitchell could not examine Nolan's entire body, specifically the neck area. The report reveals part of the neck were not received with the body. St. Tammany coroner Christopher Tape tells me it's normal practice to keep certain structures when there's a pending investigation.
If the mic kept a high odor or larynx and they'd done a second autopsy, then I would invite them to come in if they wanted to.
The family now wants to know, what was the body position when found? Was there water in the airway? Is there any evidence of injuries to the anterior neck structures? I called the Mississippi medical examiner, the Jackson County coroner, and even went to the sheriff's office, but each one of them said,
and everything else should be referenced to the district attorney's office.
Anything to believe that it's foul play?
Right here is Katie McCormick. Katie McCormick is one of the people that was around Nolan on the 4th of July. I've been reading a lot of comments on Facebook, and all of these comments are from people that know that. They either know Nolan, Katie, one of the boys, a mixture. Yeah, as we know, people say a ton of things on the internet, so I just want to make sure before I put things out that I actually believe this to be true, because I don't want to share anything that is, unhelpful, messy, disrespectful family, anything like that. There are a lot of posts saying that Katie is his girlfriend. That's not true. Many people that were there that day have stated that Katie and Nolan met on that day. They met on that day. Nolan came with his people. Katie came with her own people. They met because it was this huge party that was happening in the water. This is a comment on Facebook from Ashton. Ashton knows Katie personally. I'm going to let y'all pause and read. What Ashton is saying is that Katie is a genuine and sincere person, that she hasn't really played a part in this, did not meet him until that day. You know, Ashton continued, if anything, everyone needs to be questioning the friends and definitely not Katie. I personally sense genuinity behind this comment. You know, I looked at their page. They seem to actually know each other. This is another person who knows Katie personally. She said, I know Katie since she was in 4th grade, and her story is literally the only one that hasn't changed. Now that line kind of sat with me. The only one that hasn't changed. So whose story changed? And she asks, you know, who was on the boat with her that can back her up and vouch that she was with them the whole time. Grace goes on and says that Katie has made a full statement to police and Nolan's mom, and he didn't see him physically get back on the boat, but she saw his friends telling him to get on the boat, but everybody was in the water. And I've seen videos, there was a lot of people. I'm sure she doesn't know the exact time, but what I do know is Katie's story is the only one who hasn't changed at all this time. She told the cops and the mom the same thing. So she reiterated the fact that her story hasn't changed. So whose story has changed? I found this very interesting. And again, this is somebody who personally knows them. Grace goes on and she says, the boys also stated they came back and realized that he didn't ride back with somebody else. They then stated as well too, a different story, is that he stayed behind with Katie. So which one was it?
I got your wig, ho. Ah. Ew. Like JK, but maybe not. But thank you for watching. But you hating ass bitches always have something to say. Hating ass bitch, but you're still watching my vids. What? You're so upset. But that's okay, because have a piece of bread, have a Xanax, relax, because I said what I said.